Welcome to the Rotoworld Basketball Show. We are back in action. It's Vaughn Dalzell alongside Raphielle Johnson of NBC Sports and Dan Titus of Yahoo Sports. A lot has happened, gentlemen. And again, the man, the myth, the legend, James Harden is back in the news because he made his Clippers debut against the Knicks, and Madison Square Garden was rocking. RJ Barrett, the Knicks put on a show, won that game 111-97. I was pretty impressed with James Harden the first half, but then we saw those defensive issues, I think, come to fruition as he had a -18 real plus minus. Wrath, why don't you take us into just what you thought about Harden's debut overall and what you thought about his defense?
I mean, you have James Harden fantasy. You're not counting on defensive stats. Maybe he gets a steal every so often just because somebody throws an errant pass or something. But the main thing I think that I took away from is he played 31 minutes. Given how much time he missed, didn't play at all in the preseason. I think that's a positive sign for him to play 31. It's still going to be a work in progress, because we didn't see too much difference for Russell Westbrook, I thought, in one game. But maybe after a week or so, you'll be able to figure out what's going on there. I think Kawhi and Paul George will be fine. It's the Westbrook and Harden equation that I'm looking forward to. So if I have Harden Westbrook rostered, I'd hold on to him for now.
Yeah, I think certainly that's the case for him. 17 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 turnovers for Harden in the double-digit loss. And we have a lot of injuries to go over today. But, Dan, what did you think about James Harden in general and the Clippers in that game? Obviously, we couldn't expect the chemistry to be there in game one. But the first half was pretty solid, I thought.
Yeah, I think we got a glimpse of how decently in shape James Harden is. And he talked about how winded he was after only like a few minutes in the game. So I think once he actually gets his sea legs back, like he'll be fine. I'm curious about the rotations. Like that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to be looking for is, is Russell Westbrook going to be playing more of the twos, or is James Harden? Right now, it looks like James Harden is primarily going to be playing with a lot of twos. So from a fantasy usage standpoint, they should both be able to eat. Russell Westbrook's been surprisingly good this year. Definitely improved efficiency from the field, but I think, the turnovers are always going to be there. But I think what he's doing rebounding and assist-wise, that has some staying power. So now it's just a matter of like, how much will James Harden be running that second unit? If he does, he could still be putting up, close to 18 points. I don't know that we'll see double-digit assists, but he'll still be worthy of, 7 or 8 a game. The more concern I have about Harden is like, will he be getting to the line as much as he did in the past? Obviously, one game he only went 3 times. I don't know that we'll be seeing him get to the line 7 or 8 times a game like he was in the past. But I think both, if you got Harden in like the 5th round, you got to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, that was like the bread and butter of Philadelphia. I felt like the past 2 seasons was the free throw line for Embiid and Harden, especially in the fourth quarters. But yeah, his free throws have definitely dipped over the past couple of years. Only 6.2 attempts last season in Philly. That's a career low dating back to his last season with the Thunder when he was a 6th man. So yeah, I think that's definitely something worth noting for sure when it comes to James Harden. Rath, you're rocking the Knicks hat today. What is that your squad?
It is.
It is. All right.
Yeah.
So Immanuel Quickley, like we're gonna pump. Oh no. I'd rather be a Knicks fan than a Bulls fan right now.
Yeah, that's
true. Let me ask you this, Rath. Immanuel Quickley, what's he about this year? Is he gonna take home 6th man of the year? Because that's my preseason pick, baby.
I think he'll be in the running for sure. Just because of the role he has in that rotation and how effective he's been. But I don't know, man. I think he'll definitely. I can see him being a finalist. You kind of put me on the spot here. I didn't really, think too much about it. But
you got to use the thing about your heart right here, baby. That's your team.
Yeah, in this platform, I try not to get too like psychophantic, I guess you would say. I don't even know if that's an actual word, but yeah, I think he'll be in the mix for sure. He's one of the best 6 men. I think if anything, I'm more excited what we've seen from RJ Barrett this far. Bit more efficient. The defensive stats still aren't there, but I think if he can clean up the efficiency, he turns into someone that you're not looking at as I have to have him rostered just because he's a starter. Like there's actual value to be had there now.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on RJ Barrett. He's been super impressive. 22 points per game. We've been waiting for him to consistently be a 20 points per game scorer, and I feel like this is the season where he's going to be that for the Knicks. Not saying us. But yeah, I'm becoming a Barrett fan. And one thing I noticed with the Knicks, they're getting him active and early in games. He's getting to the bucket early, and they're running the offense through him. So I think that's been pretty exciting. we do have a lot of injuries worth noting. Dan, I want to kick it to you because a couple guys that are on the injury reports for tonight and the next few nights. We got Mason Plumlee, Anthony Davis, Bradley Beal. Obviously, the latter two are more attractive names to be talking about. So break down what you're rocking with this week and pickups in case these guys miss a game or two.
Yeah, so I feel like if you're a Phoenix Suns fan or fantasy manager that has Bradley Beal, you got to be feeling pretty good that he's been upgraded over the last couple of days. He's been ramping up over the last week. So I think we'll see him before we see Devin Booker. It looks like I think Beal is good to go. He's definitely leaning towards playing tonight from what I've read. So that's nice. I think it probably puts a bit of a I don't know if I'm quite ready to drop Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen quite yet. I want to make sure that these guys are actually back and playing before they hurt themselves again. Kind of like what happened with Devin Booker. Now he's out with a calf injury after previously injuring his toe. Nothing really to add on the Clippers front. Hopefully Terry Mann will make his return to play. He'll be rocking in the power forward spot along with Kawhi Leonard. So Terrence Mann was likely dropped just because, if you don't have an injury spot on your team, we didn't really have a place for him. So I'll look to him to continue to ramp up. I'm most concerned about Jamal Murray and his hamstring injury. That's just one of those like lingering type of injuries that, you can easily aggravate. Obviously the Denver Nuggets know that this is a long season. They just, I think they actually had pretty good injury luck last year. So I think they'll probably be pretty cautious with Jamal Murray. So who is the add there? Christian Brown definitely will get more minutes. But I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is someone that I've seen floating around on waivers that's actually been pretty solid, that I could see continuing to play over 30 minutes. That gives you some steals, gives you some threes. I think he's worthy of being rostered in shallow and deep leagues, and I've seen him be getting dropped a little bit lately. But yeah, Jamal Murray's injury only probably just benefits really Nikola Jokic, whose numbers are only going to continue to get better, which is insane because the guy is the best player on the planet already.
Yeah, just from a prop bettor's perspective, I know that Aaron Gordon usually sees a significant 3, 4, 5-point uptick in scoring when Jamal Murray's out. And the last 2 seasons, I feel like he's coming to his own. So I definitely like his situation as well as Jokic's. But I like the 2 backup names you brought up. I will note, Rath, before I kick it to you here, Bradley Beal has scored 18-plus points and 15 straight against the Bulls. And that's who the Suns will be playing tonight. So that's a pretty nice matchup to get your first game back on your feet. Of course, no one on Chicago can guard Kevin Durant. So I'll be interested to see that one. Rath, out of all the guys Dan said, anyone stand out to you? And who's on your waiver wire pickup list?
I think the Plumlee injury is a bit more important than we're giving it credit for, just because they really don't have any other options behind Ivica Zubac. Moussa Diabate hasn't been in the rotation. I don't see that changing just because of the knee sprain. If anything, maybe PJ Tucker takes on some of those backup center minutes. Now, he's not the tallest player, but he's definitely tough and rugged to take on some of that where they can play small. Does that make him a viable fantasy option? Maybe in deep leagues, but I think that would be a stretch. So I think there's not too much to be had there, but I think Tucker would be someone to watch, especially tonight in Brooklyn, where the Nets have also been going small without Nick Claxton. So you could probably have 10 players, none taller than like 6'8" or 6'9" on the floor at any given time in that one. So then the Jamal Murray one, like Dan said, that's a big one. I don't think Reggie Jackson is a great pickup. Didn't give you too much on Monday, and I don't know if he meshes too well as a starter with that group. If anything, if you have like an Aaron Gordon, as you mentioned earlier, I think his assist numbers is something else to watch. He took on more playmaking responsibilities with Bruce Brown moving on in free agency. Julian Strawther went off on Monday. I think he's more of a watch list guy than someone you go out to pick up right now. I think I would pick up, say, a Jordan Hawkins in New Orleans before I picked up Julian Strawther, but I think he's someone to keep an eye on right now.
You stole one of my sleepers. I was going to ask you for the show. It probably wasn't a sharp opinion at all, but yeah, Jordan Hawkins was someone I thought was pretty to talk about. I'm a Julian Strawther fan. I liked him a lot at Gonzaga, so yeah, when I saw him in the highlights, I was like, what's going on here? But, of course, Jamal Murray opens up the doors to a lot of younger players and role players there. So I'm pretty interested in them. Anybody else you want to hit on, Dan? Any opinions on the Clippers' depth? Because as Rath hit on, I mean, they don't have much of anything going on. And PJ Tucker looks like Lord and Savior there for the center position.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'd probably stay off the Clippers outside. I mean, they just got James Harden. So I feel like most of that, whatever fantasy production you're looking for, is going to become between Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Harden, and Westbrook. But might as well talk about New Orleans, because I feel like that's probably the most significant injury of fantasy basketball over the last week is CJ McCollum being out with a punctured lung. Very unfortunate, or collapsed lung, excuse me. So because he's out indefinitely, like I feel like at this point, Jordan Hawkins is the guy. I tried to take a flyer on Dyson Daniels. He has this, Ben Simmons-like skill set. Doesn't really score much, but does pretty much everything else. And he was okay, but Jordan Hawkins went off. And, for what he does in terms of spacing the floor for the Pelicans team, Zion Williamson's been ruled out tonight for rest purposes. So, I think he's going to get a lot more usage today, even after that last 20-plus point explosion. Or did he even have 30?
31.
Yeah, he had 31. Okay. So, yeah, I think Jordan Hawkins is like the ad of all ads right now, because we don't know when CJ McCollum is coming back. Now, he did collapse his lung before, and he was out about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
so
18 days.
Yeah, 18 days. So if there's any precedence there, if it's a similar issue, obviously they're still getting evaluated. I mean, having Jordan Hawkins right now for the next few weeks could definitely be helpful for your fantasy team.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys coming up now that's a walking bucket. Another guy I loved in college basketball last year for UConn. He was outstanding. I thought Zion's looked really well too, but now replacing two 20-point scorers, a guy's getting you 8-10 boards, and then a guy that leads your team in assists. That's a lot to come up with. So obviously, Rath, talk about Hawkins, but is there Larry Nance Jr. we're looking at, Matt Ryan, not the NFL quarterback, but the NBA player. These type of guys, are they worth looking at too?
I would say Nance, just because of the defensive issues we've seen with Valanciunas at the center position. I don't see Nance moving into the starting lineup per se. I think maybe that's a Matt Ryan position, for some three-pointers right now. But I think Nance is the one who could have more staying power just because of what he brings to the table in terms of the rebounds and the block shots and just being a better positional defender than Valanciunas has proven to be in recent years. So I think those two names are definitely worth keeping an eye on here.
Yeah, I've always been a big Larry Nance Jr. fan. Here's a fun fact for you two and everyone watching. Larry Nance Jr. has Crohn's disease, and so do I. And I want to figure out how to be 6'8" and 240 pounds like he is, but it just wasn't possible for me. So, good stuff, Rath. I do think Larry Nance is a great pickup. I think he's going to get 5 to 10 extra minutes a game and be able to add in some points, rebounds, assists. And he has a three-point shot too. So I like that a lot, Rath. Let's go. Oh, as a reminder, actually, you guys should check out NBC Sports, all of our shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. You can find all the fantasy shows for basketball, football, and some of our betting programs as well. Dan, let's start with a guy that I'm a big fan of, Devin Vassell. He's got a groin injury. He's going to be sidelined. We should get an update within a week or two about him. I don't expect him to be out that long, but I have a trick question for you. Because, of course, you both are going to have your guys to talk about picking up. Is it better to pick up anyone on the Spurs or better just to pick up players against the Spurs? Because at this point, they're playing a top 10 pace and allowing the second most points per game at 126. So there's a lot of fantasy production to be had both ways.
Yeah, Spurs are a track meet, man, and it's great to see for fantasy basketball purposes. The Spurs are actually an underrated fantasy team, right? Like Zach Collins is playing at a top 70 level right now. I think it could probably be better. His assists are great. But the one part of this injury of Devin Vassell that I've seen benefit the most is probably Trey Jones. And you're not going to be able to get him on, in many leagues right now just for his rostership. But they have been starting Malachi Branham. I don't know that he'll hold very much longer because it doesn't look like Vassell's injury is long-term. But you got to be a little bit concerned because Vassell hasn't been able to play a full healthy season yet. And, he continually gets these little injuries that continue to press on. And it'd be great to see him kind of, come back from this and actually get back into the fold. But I'm a little bit concerned, but not enough that, I'm dropping him or anything like that. I did see an interesting trade go down of Onyeka Okongwu and Klay Thompson for Devin Vassell. I thought that was a really interesting trade. And I think that actually might be a nice buy low window for Vassell because people could be panicking of like, oh my God, he's always hurt. But he was in the midst of a breakout. So like, let's not ignore the fact that he was absolutely good before this injury happened. So if you see anyone that's frustrated, go get Devin Vassell, man. I think it's an awesome buy low opportunity where he hasn't gotten back into the lineup yet, and there still could be some buyer beware there just because of his injury history.
What side of that trade would you rather be on, Rath?
I'd take the Okongwu and Clay side personally. I know, as Dan mentioned, the injury concerns with Vassell recently. That would be something where if I had him, I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him. But if you're going to offer me Okongwu, who's going to give you solid value in like 22 to 25 minutes per game, and then Clay Thompson, I think I would do that. I would take that to 2 players as opposed to the 1.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's averaging almost 20 points per game, but only 3.5 rebounds and 2 assists per game. So I like the mention of Trey Jones from Dan, because Trey Jones, his last 3 games, has 24 total assists, games of 10, 6, and 8, and he's averaging 8.5 points per game. So if you need assists, he's definitely a great pickup, and he's not a bad shooter either. Either those going to get a little better. Rath, was there anybody on the Spurs team that you wanted to mention about bringing up?
No, that's a thoroughly uninteresting roster beyond the main suspects, I guess you would say. Like,
yeah, Dan, Rath had me cracking up actually over the past couple of days, because I was doing my fantasy reads and he had me saying dominating. I said, "Is this a thing, DeAndre?"
He hasn't really dominated yet, but
I mentioned that in one blurb because that's what that was a nickname he gave himself.
Self-imposed, like the king.
I think
that's the first time I saw
give themselves nicknames like that.
Yeah, I mean, but although like I'm trying to think about it, like I feel like it's more prominent in the NBA, right? Like nobody called Kobe no Mamba before he just came up with that. LeBron being the king, like it's quite annoying, to be honest. Like you should be giving these nicknames, man. Like you can't just be, But he's not dominating anything. He's averaging like 14 rebounds, not getting any work offensively, which is something that I think could change. Like I've seen DeAndre Ayton listed as a sell high, but I'm like, is there anything really high right now? Like he's not really even getting that usage. If anything, I feel like he's going to get more touches now that Robert Williams is out. So I don't know. I don't know that I would be looking to sell DeAndre Ayton as much as he's not, a popular person in fantasy. I feel like he gets disrespected a lot, and maybe it's because of the dominating thing, but like, I don't know. He's still a decent fantasy player.
I mean, he was semi-disrespected last year a lot. I mean, in the prop community, you either love or hate Ayton, and it's probably similar in the fantasy community too, I have to imagine.
It's definitely a love-hate.
Yeah, I wasn't saying by any means that you were calling him dominating. That's the first time I saw it was in the blurb, and I was like, wait a second. I had to go Google it. I was like, what is this? But yeah, I'd rather Robert Williams over Ayton in general. But what do you think about Portland's situation now? Because Rob Williams out, Scoot Henderson's out. Scoot Henderson's Rookie of the Year campaign, is it beginning to be over, or was it over before the season even started?
I thought it was done before. You think about it, point guards in rebuilding situations, the turnovers are naturally going to be high for a rookie period, much less one where you're essentially learning on the job while playing 30-plus minutes per game. The efficiency wasn't going to be there. And then you look at who else is in this rookie class, Victor Wembanyama. Chet Holmgren qualifies, for Rookie of the Year. Those 2 guys alone were going to make it difficult for him. And now we've got Ausar Thompson turning into like one of the greatest defensive rookies we've seen of this generation, to be honest with you. So, I think Scoot was in a rough spot before the season started, and now this injury just makes it even worse for him and people who may have placed those early bets on him Rookie of the Year.
So Ausar Thompson's that legit on defense? We're gonna like
Walker
Kessler,
he is him.
All these guys?
He is him.
Yes.
Oh. I
mean,
might
it's
pull
real
some
deal.
Advanced statistics here and see who his numbers are, because now you gentlemen have me intrigued in that one a lot. I like that.
I think it's either the first Pistons player or first Pistons rookie since Grant Hill in '94 to have at least 4 steals in back-to-back games. So you don't just do that by people just randomly losing the ball in your general vicinity. Like you kind of have to know what you're doing.
Now this rookie class is special, man. Like they got 3 between Chet, Wemby, and Ausar Thompson, man. These guys are all averaging over 4 blocks a game. Like that's crazy. or close to
Yeah.
4 steals a game. Like that's insane.
Yeah, he sounds like a pretty good ticket on maybe an outside rookie of the year.
Oh, so
right
like
now.
his odds were outside, like I think they were like 14-1, 15-1 before. So I mean, value wise, like I think he'd still there's definitely a cash out opportunity with Ausar. He's way better than Scoot. It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Scoot's like we said, it's probably over before it even started there. So, interesting thing is happening in Portland right now.
Jaden Sharp, balling. He's a guy I didn't get any shares of that I wish I had more. So, like, I don't know if now is the right time. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to be selling him at this point because he looks great. But what are your guys' thoughts on Jaden Sharp and being able to maintain this going forward?
Go ahead, Raph.
I think he can be I'd say top 75. I know he's like right around that top 50 range right now. I think 75 would be realistic for end of the season value. Just because obviously Scoot, he's going to be back eventually. So we have to see how that dynamic works out in terms of usage and shot selection, in terms of where those shots come from and the efficiency that comes with that. But yeah, Shaedon Sharpe, I wish I had more of him as well. That's not a guy that I would be selling by any means. I think he's obviously going to be a cornerstone up there. So just let him go to work and see where that takes you. I think you're going to be in a really good place if you have him rostered.
Yeah. I'd say one thing I just noticed about him is that he's grabbing a lot of rebounds this season.
And the stocks too.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that, and I don't know if I'm expecting that to continue or not, but Portland's in a situation where they're going to be down by 10, 15, 20 most nights. So, you just giving a little bit of extra effort leads to those rebounds, those blocks, or those steals in the third, fourth quarter. So I guess, yeah, Shaedon Sharpe's a pretty interesting guy to be looking at. Any opinions on what to do in another I don't want to disrespect them too much, but not a great basketball city right now, Charlotte. Terry Rozier is out for 2 games. And, we talked about them a lot because Cody Martin's out. Miles Bridges is still suspended. LaMelo's Ball's minutes have gone up the last 3 games, Wrath, which is definitely, some good value if you do have him. But what's to make of the Charlotte situation? Is there anybody there that you're even targeting?
I guess Brandon Miller. He's moved into the starting lineup. The thing with him is that he's still ranked outside the top 150. So I think you're hoping with more minutes alongside Ball, the efficiency and scoring pick up. But I don't really think you're picking up anyone else, with Rozier out, just because of what all he was asked to do in that rotation. He'd play off the ball with LaMelo. They'd stagger their minutes some to where he'd be on the ball, running the show a bit. So, yeah, Miller's going to be rostered in like standard leagues and deep leagues already. So I don't really know if that's too much is going to change there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I feel like Brandon Miller is somehow making his way on the show every single week, and he just refuses to be left off of the Rotoworld basketball show. Dan, is there any opinion on other guys? I mean, they got, Nick Richards, Theo Maldon, not very attractive guys, PJ Washington, JT Thor. I mean, it's not good depth whatsoever.
Depending on how you feel about picking up Miles Bridges, I think now would be the time to do it if you were going to do it, outside of the transgressions. I'm saying? Like the Charlotte Hornets haven't been pretty open about anything. I think they haven't been talking about him for a reason because they don't want to draw any attention to it. But he only has 4 games left in his suspension, so he could be back by next week. He's been practicing. He's someone that's going to probably slot in and start playing, some of that 4, maybe some 3 as well. So if this, it seems like Terry Rozier always gets a groin injury at some point. If this continues to linger on, like I feel like the Hornets are going to go with a taller front court lineup. You'll play some Gordon Hayward at the 2, Brandon Miller at the 3, or however they want to do it. But, Bridges is going to get minutes if he is seemingly going to play. So he's like, I want to say like anywhere in that 50, 60% rostership area. So like he could definitely be out there in shallow league. So if you don't have any issue with picking up a guy that's done certain things, he's probably worth it from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Rath, too, if your opinion was time to get Miles Bridges now or never, because he will be coming back. People will probably want him to trade for him. Do you think he's worth picking up and trading, or rather worth picking up and holding on?
I don't know. It's like you have to have these conversations, but it's like fantasy basketball. We're not like the morality police or anything like that. like Dan said, he's going to factor into the rotation. I think the question is when. He had the initial 10-game suspension. There are other things that came to light, early on, and it's like, are they going to tack on more? They're just going to let him play and let the legal, situation run its course.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I think you have to play it as if he's going to be available immediately after those 10 games. If you want to roll the dice on him and go for it, by all means. But it's like, I don't know, man. It's just a really terrible situation in which basketball really shouldn't matter too much. But we're talking about basketball because we kind of have to do that,
No, totally agreed. I mean, just a couple of years ago, Miles Bridges was, I want to say that 2 seasons ago, he was my number 2 most profitable prop. And we called him Money Miles Bridges. See, we appointed him that nickname. He didn't appoint himself that nickname. But yeah, so, if you're separating on and off the court, we have to have these conversations as well. For fantasy purposes, he's going to be one of the hotter nicknames or hotter names over the next week or two. Mm-hmm. And honestly, guys, I'm going to be one of the hotter names in college basketball over the next week or two, too. 3-0 start season, Dan. I know you see it. But you guys need to check out Peacock basketball because Big Ten basketball is back, underway, streaming on Peacock. This Friday, I'll be involved in this game. Wisconsin Badgers are back against the Tennessee Vols, who are number 9. Second game of the season for both. You can catch tip-off live November 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Peacock. I watched Princeton upset Rutgers on the first Peacock college basketball game. Phenomenal game, phenomenal broadcast. I hope to be on it later this season and to be making money on the under in Wisconsin versus Tennessee. There's a little tip for you guys. All right, let's talk about some more injuries, some youngins. The Orlando Magic, a hot team with a lot of energy. We got Wendell Carter Jr. injured, Markelle Fultz injured, Gary Harris injured. What's interesting enough is they play in Mexico City on Thursday night. I can't wait to watch this game. I hope it's 132 to 128 type of game. So, Rath, who are you looking at for these pickups the next couple of weeks? Because Fultz and Harris are game time decisions.
I think the main focus is on the center position. Wendell Carter Jr. would be out 3 weeks from November 4th, so he's got another 2.5 to go. Moritz Wagner was a guy that a lot of us pegged, to be that pickup. I stand by that. He's been very good in his role. It's just funny that Jamal Mosley's one of those coaches who will not upset his rotation for anything. So while we were expecting Wagner to move up into the starting lineup, he went with Goga Bitadze, who looked nothing like the player we've seen for much of his NBA career in that win over the Lakers. 10-10 with 5 blocks. And then a few nights later, he came back to earth, so to speak. So I think you can definitely go with Goga in deeper leagues, but if you force me to pick one of those two, I'm picking Wagner, and I think he's going to have staying power even after Wendell Carter Jr. returns.
Yeah, Wagner has great usage rates so far this season, 25.7% so far when he's on the court. So that's pretty good, getting used 1/4 of the time there. Dan, what's your opinion on the Orlando Magic? And any opinion on what you might see against the Hawks, and if there's maybe any guys that are worth picking up, taking on the Magic?
So I think Jalen Suggs is still under 40% rostered. I think I would still have him in the lineup as long as Markelle Fultz is also out. I'm concerned about Fultz. He's got some swelling in his knee. That's going to be one of those things you're going to have to manage throughout the season. And if this pops up again, he can miss 3 or 4 games. So Jalen Suggs right now is doing enough defensively to keep me interested. He's getting the minutes. He's more competent offensively than he's been in years past. So somebody that I would look at. The other one is Cole Anthony. As much as he's been running that second unit, he's been a bucket off the bench. He's getting good amount of steals, not that many turnovers. So if you're looking for a guard, I think Cole Anthony and Suggs probably make the most sense. To attack that front court situation, I was high on Goga originally because he had that monster game versus the Lakers. And then, as Raph said, he came back to earth, had like 7.6 rebounds and a block. If you're looking for blocks, I think Bitadze makes a lot of sense. But if you want efficiency, like I think Mo Wagner off of that bench is still a pretty good option. So pick your poison. I think it all depends on team need, but I think they're still worth streaming at least. Both Bitadze and Wagner. So expectations for the Atlanta game, I'm expecting a track meet, man. Like Trae Young's going to eventually figure it out. He's been missing a lot of shots. With Markelle Fultz out, I would expect him to have a very good game versus the Orlando Magic. think he's averaged like 47 fantasy points versus them last season in 5 games. So if you're playing DFS, I would definitely load up Trae Young.
I like the sound of that one. Good, Raph.
I'm expecting bigger rotations for this one. Our producer Adam Googled the elevation of Mexico City, 7,349 feet. Obviously, Denver's only a mile high, so there's going to be an adjustment process. I don't think you're going to see guys on the back end of those rotations being worth like streaming on Thursday, if anything. Like you're not going to go out and pick up Admiral Schofield. Like if you do that, you might be a degenerate, but you know, but yeah,
Schofield in the flex.
Yeah, we may see some of these guys playing in shorter stints just to kind of manage the stamina up until the fourth quarter. Then you just kind of go all out as you normally would. But I think that's going to be something else to keep an eye on Thursday. Really, I think, was it 2 games on Thursday? So not too much going on there from a DFS standpoint. But
well, that's because they gave us 14 games on Wednesday. That's it's exactly what Dan wanted to happen.
Love it when Adam Silver can just stack us up with 14 games with like 10 of them going on at one time, man. It's perfect chaos.
Yeah, how can we watch all these games? But we got the Admiral Schofield shout out. But listen to this: if you don't count minutes played, he leads the NBA in usage rate. Because in the 3 minutes he played this season, Rath, 57.1%, baby. This guy was touching all over the rock.
That's how you do it, man.
That's wild. Because like that, he actually that's great that he just goes to the top of the usage list. That's because the game we haven't played enough games yet. That's hilarious.
Yeah, 1 game for 3 minutes, and he's number 1 in the NBA, baby. Come on, NBA, do better than that. We don't want to see his name up there, but he might be getting minutes. So Rath might be onto something because he's handling the rock now. Let's talk about another rotation that didn't make much sense to me, but now it's a little more clear. Jaden Ivey has an illness, but he got called out by his coach saying that he's just playing kind of selfish basketball. He's not bringing that team mentality to the floor, and there's other players that are doing that for them. So, while he's got an illness now, I kind of felt like this was coming at some point. He was going to be sitting a game or two, maybe get his act right. Rath, any opinion on what's going on with Jaden Ivey, the Pistons, and should we drop this guy?
He can't guard anyone. Like that's the biggest thing. Like he can't. Like I don't know.
You.
Hell yeah. I've never been paid to play basketball. Like, no.
I don't know that he could, man. Raph 6'6", man. He bodied him in the post.
No. My personal rule is that if you've never been paid to play, you can't get on here talking about being better than someone who has.
I love that.
I don't care what it is. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Monty Williams is a stickler for being able to defend your position, defend within the principles of their system. Ivy wasn't able to do it. I don't want to sit here and insinuate that the illness isn't real because obviously I'm not in Detroit, so I don't know. So I assume that it is. But even then, he wasn't a Monty Williams draft pick. So it's like if they're giving him carte blanche to rebuild this team in his image, he's under no obligation to play him, high minutes. And we've seen Marcus Sasser. He struggled on Monday, but before that, his points were going up by the game. I think he scored 22 in the game prior to that. So if you have Ivy, you're definitely looking for alternatives because even if he returns, I don't know if there's like a clear path for the minutes that he's going to need to be of value to fantasy leagues. So he's not particularly efficient. Sasser and Killian Hayes are both far better defenders than him. So, yeah, I think it's time to let go, personally.
Yeah, I was going to mention that Sasser, like playing at Houston, he was a guy I followed for the past 2 years closely, and elite defensive ability. He's a great shot maker, can get that separation. The last 4 games, as you mentioned, he's seen that uptick in minutes, 23, 23, 30, and 33, averaging 14 points and 4.5 assists and 3 boards. So he's doing a little bit of everything. He's only going to get better. A guy I think will fit that team's build the next couple of years pretty well, in my opinion. Dan, what's your opinion on Jaden Ivey? Anybody worth picking up? And I'm sure you're on the same line with Sasser.
Yeah, Ivy's a drop. I think Sasser is someone I'm interested in deep leagues. He's under 15% rostered. I'm actually, I hate that I'm saying this, but I guess I'm in on Killian Hayes. It's more about the minutes and the production right now, man. Last 3 games, He's played over 34 minutes in each of those 3 games, including a 39-minute game. He's scoring. He's hitting threes. He's getting plenty of assists. So, like, I mean, I think he needs to be rostered right now. He's only at 35%. Until we get more clarity on the injuries in Detroit, like, I feel like this is a tight rotation, and Killian Hayes and Sasser are both a part of it. So I think both of them, you know, depending on your league size, are worthy of being rostered right now. But definitely drop Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, Ivy, man, he wasn't giving you much anyways besides points and a couple assists per game, definitely turnovers. But Killian Hayes, I feel like it's not a now or never situation, but he's got another season or so before he's kind of have to like get it all together and be the complete player he could be. Because last year's 3-point percentage was bad. I mean, 28% the year before, 2 years before that, 26 and 27. You know, but this year, as you said, Dan, he's hitting shots. He's hitting 36% from three. Averaging about 10 points per game. So I think that's really crucial for Killian Hayes. He'll get you assists. He'll play some solid D, but he needs to be able to make those shots.
I feel like he had this moment last year too. He had like a stint of like 10, 15 games. It's like, oh man, he's playing really well. And then he kind of got to the Killian Hayes that everyone knows and loves, one of the most inefficient players in the league. But I think you got to ride him while he's hot right now. And we'll see how this injury situation kind of pans out for Detroit. But yeah, Sasser is definitely a good long-term view for the way he plays defensively. Like, that dude is a dog. So I think eventually if Killian Hayes starts to fall off, I think we'll see more of Sasser, which it'd be good to get some shares of that now.
Yeah, for sure. Rath, anybody else worth mentioning here before we talk about the rest of the week 3 schedule in the NBA and all the back-to-backs?
They signed Kevin Knox today.
Who's they? Detroit?
Yes, they did.
How many teams is that now for him in the last 2 years?
Well, this is his second stint in Detroit. So we got Knicks.
That's right.
Hawks,
That's right.
Pistons, Trailblazers. There's just 4. So yeah, he's not on the Ish Smith plan just yet, but you know, if you get there, that means you've been in the league a while. So
yeah.
Yeah, who's how many years has he been in the league? I mean, he's got that in 2018.
He's got 5. Yeah. He's got 5 under his belt right now. So this will be year 6.
All right. I like that. Let's see if we can break some records, Kevin Knox. But yeah, that's interesting. That's a good note worth making. Dan, anybody else for you want to hit on before we get into scheduling? You're part of the show where you just take over and kill it?
No, Raph's got something else to say. Let's
I just want to be clear. I'm not telling any of you watching or listening to pick this man up. Just be clear right now. I just wanted to, as Dan said, the rotation's really tight. There's really no one to pick up at this point. So I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page here, that you do not need to go pick up Kevin Knox.
Yeah, go get Admiral Schofield, though. But no Kevin Knox. All right. If you need some ad drops in fantasy football, they'll get you covered also on Amazon. But Sunday Night Football is a big one, guys. All eyes are in Las Vegas. You don't want to miss a match between stars Sauce Gardner and Devontae Adams as the Jets travel to the desert to face the Raiders. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. I'll probably be on the under in that game because, I mean, you know who the quarterbacks are. But anyways, week 3 schedule, gentlemen, for the NBA. We got some teams on a back-to-back. My Chicago Bulls will be in there. The New York Knicks will be on a back-to-back. I don't remember who Dan's team is. I'm feeling like it was the Sixers, but I don't remember, to be honest. But, he's going to get the flag out or something. A banner.
There you go.
I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. Sixers, no back-to-backs this week, so they got it easy. But they got a big game with the Celtics tonight where they're short home dogs. I think they can win. Dan, take us through what you're thinking. Back-to-back, scheduling, what it means for some teams.
So streaming-wise, I'm trying to think of, like, back end of the week of what teams are probably the most advantageous. So I think Derek Lively's still under 50%. I don't know how, but I think he's coming off of a 15-15 game. I think we'll start seeing him get into the lineup a little bit more. Dwight Powell hasn't really been doing much, and Maxi Kleber's still hurt. So Dallas does have 3 games to end out the week. So if he's out there and you need a big, go for that. I think also Grant Williams is also kind of interesting. He's been playing more minutes and playing pretty well with those minutes. Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't know where he is on the 6-man of the year list, Vaughn, but this dude's dropping 20 points. He has the most 20-point games off the bench so far. So I feel like he's not getting talked about enough for what he's doing for that Dallas team. Other ads, Naz Reid, kind of interesting. I feel like he could also be a streamer for Minnesota. They have a nice little schedule there. And then, that's probably where I draw the line. Indiana Pacers have been super weird. One of the players I want to kind of get a feel for, guys, is Benedict Mathurin and what you're doing there. I've started to see him get dropped in definitely 10-team leagues, and maybe that turns into 12-team very soon. But, Indiana's rotation is crazy right now. Obi Toppin played well against Victor Wembanyama, hadn't gotten any minutes. And then, Aaron Naismith still played pretty well. So, I don't know. Maybe Indiana's just one of those frustrating teams that you just can't get a read on who's going to be the one to pop. But they do have 3 games this week for the rest of the week. So it's definitely some streaming appeal if you can nail the right guy of Rick Carlisle's rotation, because I haven't been able to do it yet. So those are kind of the main ones I'm looking at right now.
So the Pacers have been in a lot of shootouts so far, man. 121.7 points per game allowed, right behind the Spurs and the Wizards for 30th in the NBA. But I like the Derek Lively shout out because we talked about him a lot to start the season. And I mean, he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but the games when he has played minutes, he's been very productive on the boards, 13 and 14 rebounds in his 2 highest this season. Rath, any mentions on some scheduling for you and guys worth picking up?
I think one that I'm keeping my eye on is Tari Eason down in Houston. He could be back as soon as tonight. They've got 3 games, no back-to-backs. So I think that would be a good way to kind of work him into the rotation. How much he'll play, I don't know, but what he brings to the table defensively and as a rebounder, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to see him hitting the 20s in minutes, on a nightly basis in Ime Udoka's system. So I think he's one guy. Miami's got 3 games with a back-to-back. So I think you're keeping an eye on, say, like a Jimmy Butler to see if he plays all 3 games. Maybe a Jaime Jaquez enters the equation in deeper leagues, the rookie out of UCLA. But, yeah, I think if anything, we're just kind of waiting to see how some of these injury situations shake out, because that will have a greater impact in the scheduling, I think. You think about the Clippers, the Suns. Boston's had some guys out of the lineup recently. Derek White, birth of a child. I think he'll be back, but you're looking at a Friday, Saturday back-to-back. So what does that mean for Al Horford? Does like a Sam Hauser enter the equation on the back end? So, yeah. I think Tari Eason would be the main one for me personally.
Yeah, I like the Jaime Jaquez shout out too, because I feel like he's a guy that kind of fits the Heat culture, and he's going to work his way into the minutes rotation more and more, playing more minutes. Dan, any opinions on those 2 guys? And Tari Eason, I mean, he could be a bucket too. He's another guy. He'll come and get your buckets.
Yeah, I think Tari Eason's probably going to get into that rotation quicker than normal because Amen Thompson's also still out. So I think there's some wiggle room in terms of getting some more depth on the wing. And Houston's surprisingly one of the best defensive teams over the last week. So like that Ime Udoka effect is definitely taking shape already. And when you get someone that's as dynamic as Tari Eason back, like that's only going to be better for them. Dylan Brooks, probably one of the biggest sell highs I've ever seen. But like this dude's he's playing well right now, man. Like if you have him, like I get riding the wave. One team that has a Saturday Sunday back-to-back. So if you're looking to kind of piggyback off of what Raph was saying with the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors also play that Saturday Sunday back-to-back. So maybe you look at if Draymond Green potentially misses games, Jonathan Kuminga could be someone you want to add. Kevon Looney's been playing really well. I think he's rostered over 60% of leagues, so he's probably not available in deeper leagues, but maybe a shallow league look, as well as Moses Moody. But yeah, man. The other one I wanted to talk about real quick before we pivot to next week's stuff. How worried are you about Andrew Wiggins? I'm getting there, man.
Yeah.
I want to say I wasn't there before. I'm like, oh, we're overreacting, but like he does not look good. And I don't know if it's the rib injury or something that they're not disclosing, but he doesn't look like himself. So like I would definitely be sweating because I don't know that I don't know what his trade value is right now. It can't be good. So you're going to have to stick this out or have to make a tough decision as a fantasy manager.
Yeah, I think you just have to stick it out, and you don't want to hope for someone to be announced as injured, but that might be the best thing to happen if you can plug him into an IL plus spot, because like you said, you're not going to get much trade value for a guy who's outside the top 400. I think ADP of like 90 or so. So people are expecting top 100 value for him. You're not going to get that back in a trade, given how much he struggled. He's like 54% from the foul line, and it's still early.
Volume's down too. Like
that's the thing. It's getting late really early for him. So yeah,
street lights are on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, you can't just flat out drop him, but you kind of have to just, say, like you said, rib injury puts him on his shelf for a couple games. So you can use that IL spot to pick up someone else and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, he's by far having a career low in points per game. I mean, his career low was 16.9 as a rookie. He's at 10.8 right now. And you mentioned the free throw, Wrath. His three-point percentage, 17.9. We're talking about Ben Simmons quality three-point shooting right now. He's just been a brick from three, but I feel like defensively, he's still been okay. He still gets his rebounds here and there. But are you panicking, Wrath, like as much as Dan is? Or starting to?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting there. All right.
Are we there? Are we there with Pascal Siakam too?
That I think he's more concerning than Wiggins.
Ooh,
Really?
Because you look at his place within that rotation, even with the change in coaches, you would expect him to still be one of those top guys. Like Wiggins, he'd be like fourth in a pecking order on most nights. So it's completely different. We've seen Siakam's usage drop like 6-7 percentage points from last season. The volume hasn't been there. He doesn't look comfortable. Scotty Barnes is shot up to the moon in terms of fantasy value, but it's come at the expense of Siakam. So given what you likely paid for Siakam in terms of draft capital, I think he's far more concerning than Wiggins right now.
Do you think that he could be – I mean, I think he's like the top of trade priority at the midpoint of the season this year, trade deadline. Yeah. So is that a reason to hold on to him too in case he ends up in a better situation? Wrath?
Go ahead, Dan.
So that's where I'm at with him is like, I feel like he's the epitome of a buy low because he hasn't been this bad ever. Like he's usually a top 40 guy. So like, I feel like there's going to be some regression to the mean here, but to Raph's earlier point is like, this system is just different and it's not a benefit to his skill set right now. Like his assists are down, his usage rate is down, his volume is down. He's not making the shots that he is taking. I was expecting him to be better just because he has a financial incentive to like be better. Like they don't want to extend you. Cool. I'll ball out and go get a contract somewhere else or make myself good enough that someone wants to trade for me and then give me the bag. So like, I'm a bit confused as to where Siakam is right now. I still feel like I'm bucketing him in the buy low category of like, I could probably get him. It probably won't cost me much to get him for how bad he is, which is a good thing. Like, I think he'll improve more so than I have faith in Wiggins improving. Like Wiggins as a fourth option, I wasn't expecting much anyway. So the fact that he's bad, I'm like, I feel easier about cutting him than a Siakam, like someone that I am invested in a fourth, fifth round draft pick. Right. So yeah, I'm torn, but these guys are like probably the two most frustrating players that I have on fantasy right now that I'm like evaluating. I'm like, is this real? Is this fake? Should I not just overreact to this being less than 10 games? Like, when are they going to write this ship on both sides?
Yeah, I just pulled up his numbers. 130th in usage rate, 208th in offensive rating. There's 207 players having a better offensive rating than Pascal Siakam, the number one option on the Raptors. That's very concerning. Last week, we talked about him in a trade with who we take him for Paolo Banchero. That's not even in the same equation anymore.
No, because Paolo went off. Like his buy low window probably closed last week, right after we talked about it. He got his game right.
Yeah, we talked about him on a Wednesday, and Thursday he popped off for 30 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists on 69% shooting and 15 free throw attempts.
That sounds like a good right moment.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so guys, before we wrap it up, give us, your top 1 or 2 players to go ahead and look at to add this week, or maybe some trade targets for the people.
Got to add Jordan Hawkins, and I'd say Derek Lively is probably my second one.
Like that. I like those two a lot. Wrath?
This one's a pretty wild one for me to even say,
Let's
but
go.
Bismack Biyombo.
Oh,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, you think about it. They just signed him in Memphis. Xavier Tillman, I believe he is out tonight, if I'm not mistaken. You can double check that right now. Yes, he is out with knee soreness. His minutes were decreasing. I don't know if Biyombo is going to start right away, but his first game, he played 26 minutes, grabbed 11 rebounds, dished out 4 assists, and blocked 3 shots up in Portland. So he's still under 20% rostered. What the hell, man? If you need center help, you might as well do it. Like Steven Adams is out for the season. We don't know when Brandon Clark's going to be healthy enough to play. Why not?
I mean, Bismack Biyombo, 26 minutes in game 1 with the Grizzlies at 31 years old in his 11th season, and he does that?
Mm-hmm.
You might as well
Streamer.
be Rath. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Probably add Sadiq Bey too. He's under 40% rostered still. You've got part of a 3-man platoon for those 2 forward spots. He's going to play 25 per game. So you're just hoping that he can bring a little bit more to the table than just the 3-point shooting. But deeper leagues, I think he's probably be off the board by now.
No, I love those 2 picks right there. Dan, any opinion on either guy before we get out of here?
Yeah, love Sadiq Bey. I don't understand why he's not rostered in more leagues. Like he should be well over 50% just given his role. Even though he's in a platoon, he's still effective. And I think he's committed more to defense. He's had way more steals. He had that 5 steal game, which kind of ballooned his steals per game. But I think he's still committed on the defensive end. And if anything happens to Jalen Johnson, like that's a great contingency plan. But I think he'll still be fantasy viable, even with Jalen Johnson playing so well. So yeah, pick up Sadiq Bey for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Bismack Biyombo, I'm like, I'll give him a shot. If I need a big man and I'm like, I'm struggling or like I got to replace Tillman, like, yeah, pick up Bismack Biyombo.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of hard rotations to nail down at certain positions, and the Hawks at their forward position has definitely been one of the more challenging, I think, waiver wire and pickup starts so far through the NBA. But Bismack Biyombo, I think, is the perfect guy to end the show on because he's about to pop off for a double-double plus 700 betting odds. And Rath was like, yeah, that's my guy. Nonchalant. All right, that's Raphielle Johnson of NBC Sports, Dan Titus of Yahoo Sports. I'm Vaughn Dalzell of NBC Sports. Thank you to our producer, Adam Wise, and everybody watching and tagging along with us. Make sure you check us out on rotoworld.com and NBCsports.com, YouTube as well. Guys, great show as always. See you next week.